Spoiler alert, I don't speak French. This is going to be a rough one. If I mispronounce something, I'm sorry. Now on to the review. Alcest, Les Chants de l'Or, album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest album from Alcest. Incredible, legendary French blackgaze and post-rock outfit headed by the legendary Neige, and they are a band that actually means quite a bit to me. In the early days of their discography, I've gone on at length on this channel about when it comes to metal, I'm a black metal boy. I always have been. It's where I started, and a lot of that has to do with the early days of Alcest. Souvenirs d'un Treman, it's never been an album that I've completely been in love with. I still felt like Neige and Alcest were really kind of getting their sound under wraps here, but they absolutely did very quickly. Escale de Lune, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing things, I really am, but this is not only one of my favorite metal albums of all time, not only is this my favorite Alcest album, it is one of my favorite albums of any genre of all time. When it came out, it showed me that not only can metal be heavy and in your face and torture, but it could also be absolutely gorgeous. And Les Voyages de l'Âme, the follow-up, I also enjoyed for the most part, even if towards the end of the record, things were maybe a little too soft for my liking. Like I said, with their previous work, they had shown me that, metal can be both crushing and beautiful, but some of the more beautiful albums on the follow-up did not really rub me the right way. And 2014's deep dive into shoegaze and dream pop was Shelter. At the time, I wasn't really feeling it, and in retrospect, I'm feeling it even less. Honestly, Alcest going for a softer album is one thing, but completely abandoning their sound is another, and I just was not for it. So much so that I kind of tuned out for a while. 2016's Kodama, I didn't even get the chance to chat about it, but listening to it later on in the year, I actually warmed up to it quite a bit. It ended up being one of my honorable mentions for the year. I wouldn't say it's a heavy record, but I would say it's a great modern sound for them. And 2019 Spiritual Instinct, which I did not listen to until fairly recently, honestly. I'm kind of pissed that I did because a lot of it's pretty good. Not only is it produced well, it's the heaviest thing they've done in years. Now, leading up to this album, Alcest is obviously a band that has a special place in my heart. I was very curious to hear where they would go. I thought the singles were pretty decent. Let's chat about this thing. Now, I will say this, with most of this album, much like the rest of this year, us metal fans are eating good. Komorebi starts this album off, and honestly, it feels like a big deal. It's an epic, grandiose start, with luscious strings, soaring guitars, really great vocal performances as well, and just this sense of regality. And yeah, it still remains not as heavy as some of their early recordings, but it does feel right. Neige really sounds larger than life on this track, and the soaring guitars and thunderous drums really complement this very sunny, beautiful atmosphere really nicely. As a matter of fact, it's gorgeous, and get used to me saying that, because a lot of this album really is. And not only that, but this sounds like something I haven't heard from Alcest yet. There are euphoric moments here that get me a little teary-eyed. There's great moments of release between these drums and guitars. It is a great start. L'Envol, I absolutely have adored since it dropped as a single. It's a beefy cut. It's over 8 minutes. The soaring guitars, the triumphant nature, it is all right where it needs to be. I really do love Neige's very stoic performance on this track, and once again, I'm stunned by just how beautiful this track is. Now, if you're not a fan of what Alcest has been doing over the years, this probably isn't going to be the album to turn you around. Especially because, once again, it is not as heavy as some of their early recordings. There's elements of dream pop on here, and shoegaze once again. The acoustic portion is really breezy and light on the ears. And yeah, if you think that this track could have been a little heavier, I totally agree. But for where they're at right now, I think this sounds pretty great. And if you're looking for a sort of easy intro into the band's work, you should give this a shot. We also get a final 2 minutes that's very heavy, easily some of the most intense stuff here. And we also get a final ambient music to tone things down. It is all done really well. Améthyste, honestly, I feel like this track is awesome. It's probably my favorite deep cut here. Interestingly enough, not only is it the longest cut here, it is also the easiest and most instantaneous to get into. Neige's vocals absolutely soar everything here, and honestly, all around, this is the heaviest cut here. It is nasty, it is evil sounding, and God, the playing all around is immaculate. Also, the extended instrumental jam that we get about halfway through this track is really classy. When Alcest are focused, they create a hell of an atmosphere. And for the moment, that's exactly what this is. Also, Flamme Jumelle, also really love. It's probably my favorite track here. The determined riff, the rough and tumble, rough around the edges sound, this is home to me. But it's also really graceful. For me, this is a fantastic medium. It's full of heart, it's super passionate, it's just a great cut. And L'Adieu as a finale, this track just gives me the chills instantly. Those lonely guitars, my God. It is so dreary, so emotional. It honestly brings me back. It's honestly stunning and one of the most beautiful tracks I've heard in any genre this year. Yeah, overall, this album is a really just classy, tasteful late career album from Alcest. I do wish it was a little bit longer though, and when we get into some of the later moments, we do have a couple of blips on the radar. Like I hear tracks like Reminiscence, and I have to just tell the band, slow down. This has been a gorgeous record for a bulk of it. It's been refreshing. It's been full of life. It's been invigorating even. And then I hear this. This is so boring. I'm all for a little piano ballad. There were plenty of those on their classic albums. But I feel like there's not nearly as much heart on display here, and that's what made a couple of those early interludes pop so much. This just sounds like it takes away more than it gives. And not for nothing. This is a very cleanly produced album, and I hear tracks like this, and I feel like they need to take a step back. And Le Font de la Lune, I'm sorry, but this track is just, it's sloppy. Instrumental-wise, okay, it's actually got a bulk of very cool moments. And honestly, those synths in the background are powerful. I wish we heard more of those. But there is a serious disconnect here. The sloppy opening vocal samples that sound like they are fighting with their life. And Nij's vocals on this track are easily his least inspired. And the rest of this track just kind of follows suit. The airy passages are a little too light for my liking. And the heavier moments, when we get there, just come off directionless. It's not for me. Overall, this is a very tasteful album for Alcest in 2024. It's got a lot of what's made them such a great band over the years. The imagery is here. The passionate performances are here. It sounds great. It sounds elegant. It sounds epic and triumphant. However, it is still a very cleanly produced album. There's some blips on the radar in the later moments. And honestly, I wish this thing was just a little bit longer, but that's just me. This is a very classy, enjoyable record from Alcest. I'm feeling a very decent 7 on it, but let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what we should chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.